And the sermon title is Holdouts. What are your holdouts? Probably depends on what we're talking about. I wrote a few lists this past week of various holdouts. I was told I don't need to share the list of holdouts that we're going to church because y'all have overcome those, and I'd be preaching to the choir. So I wrote a list of holdouts to writing a sermon because I just got really stuck this week. And it was interesting, all my holdouts had to do with a lack of something. A lack of inspiration, a lack of 3 points that came out of my studying the Word and reading commentaries, a lack of self-discipline to just sit down and start typing, which I finally did, and why it's an odd introduction this morning. I had to start somewhere. And when I started writing, I didn't know where exactly I was going. I like it much better when I hit my Friday writing time and I've got a 3-point outline ready just to, flush it out. But this week I didn't. So let's start with why we're talking about holdouts. Our gospel reading is immediately after last week's story about Jesus blessing the children. Jesus had just finished placing his hands on the children who had come up to him and blessing them. And as he's on his way from that place, a man runs up to him and falls on his knees before Jesus and asks, "Good teacher, what must I do to inherit eternal life?" In other words, what must I do to be saved? How do I get to heaven? Today we might say something about confessing your sins, asking Jesus into your heart, having a personal relationship with Jesus. But Jesus doesn't say anything about that. Instead, he replies, "Why are you calling me good? No one's good, only God. And you know the commandments. Don't murder, don't commit adultery, don't steal, don't lie, don't cheat. Honor your mother and father." What's interesting to note is that the 6 commandments out of the 10 that Jesus quotes are the last 6. The ones having to do with how we interact with each other. The first 4 all have to do with our relationship with God. These last 6 Jesus mentions are about our relationship with other people. And the man says, "Teacher, I've kept all these commandments since I was a boy." And Jesus looks at him and loves him. In the whole Gospel of Mark, this man is the only person singled out by Mark as being loved by Jesus. Jesus looks at this man who's on his knees in front of him and lovingly says, "You're only missing one thing. Go sell everything you own and give the money to the poor, and you will have treasure in heaven. Then come, follow me." At this, the man's face fell, and he was dismayed and saddened, because now he knew that this man was very rich. And selling everything you have is not what he wanted or expected to hear. This was his holdout. Jesus asked him to give up what he wasn't ready or willing to give up. And the man goes away. So again, what are your holdouts? What are you unwilling or not ready to give up if Jesus were to ask you? What are you holding on to a little too tightly? I'll tell you, one of the things for me has become my children. I've heard stories of missionaries who feel called to go to some remote place where they can't bring their own children, and so their kids live elsewhere and are raised elsewhere. And I don't know about you, I have a problem with that. A call to serve God does not supersede your call to be a parent or to be a spouse. I know clergy whose call to ministry broke up their marriages, not by their doing, but by their spouses. Their spouses did not want to change their lifestyle or didn't want to become a clergy spouse. It didn't have to be that way, but that was those spouses' holdouts. I've shared before about giving up practically all my material possessions and financial independence to serve in Nicaragua. One of my biggest concerns was about missing out on major life events in my family. The mission agency's policy was that you stayed in the field for a whole year before your first trip back home. I knew my grandparents were getting up there in age, and I was at the age of my 20s where a lot of my friends were getting married, and I wanted to be able to go to their weddings. The mission agency agreed that major life events, like weddings and funerals, I could go back for. My first trip home was after 10 months. And in the 2 weeks I was back, my middle sister got married, my younger sister graduated from high school, and I went to a cousin's wedding. Where Jesus calls you, when Jesus calls you, he knows what he's already called you to. All of your vocations get taken into consideration. Not so all your commitments, but all of your vocations, all of what God has called you to. When God called me to seminary, I had to break my commitment to the mission agency and to the schools where I was teaching. My commitment to God comes first. And Jesus knows what else he's called you to. He's not forgetting about those callings. You can't use them as holdouts when there's simply another piece of the call he has placed on your life. It all works together. My husband and I started watching a new TV show this fall called Manifest on NBC. Anyone else watching it? A couple of us, okay. It's interesting. So in the first episode, not putting any spoilers away, there's a mom whose favorite Bible verse is Romans 8:28. We know that God works all things together for good, for the ones who love God, for those who are called according to his purpose. In case there's any doubt in your mind, we are those who love God. We are those whom God has called. Yes, God has called you. Is calling you. Maybe not to serve in another country, maybe not to ordain ministry, but God has called you and is still calling you. God knows all those different pieces of your life and how you're trying to weave them together, and how he would love to weave them together if you let him. God's got a master design of how all things can work together. You might have to let go of some of your holdouts. You might be holding on something a little too tightly, maybe even to the point that it's holding you instead of you holding it. The youth group is doing the same Bible study as our evening Bible study, the same one that the morning group did last spring. The book is Restored, Finding Redemption in Our Mess, by Pastor Tom Berlin. He's a young Methodist pastor serving in Northern Virginia, and one of his analogies for a mess and restoring a mess is the restoration of the Sistine Chapel. Michelangelo painted it in the 16th century. There's been minor repair and cleaning over the centuries, but at the same time there was also the grime and dust and candle smoke, cigarette smoke. The gazillions of visitors had started to obscure the work. And so a few years ago, there was a major restoration process that began to clean up and repair and brighten the faded artwork. Well, in the youth group version of this Bible study, one activity is to put different kinds of tape over a poster and then have the kids work to restore the poster. To remove the tape, to fill in what's missing, to get a sense for how to clean up and bring a mess back to its original state. The kids only had scissors, tape, paper, and markers to work with. They didn't have high-tech or cutting-edge tools that might have allowed them to do a better job. But they did an excellent job with what they had. Let me show you. This started off as a poster I bought in college of the Maldives Islands at sunset. I forgot I even had it when I was looking for old posters. Now, some of the kids got frustrated with the process of trying to fix it. And some of us, are perfectionists. And it gets to the point where we just get overwhelmed and become a holdout. And perfectionism can become a holdout. And I didn't get the fancy artist tools that they had to restore the Sistine Chapel. But some kids kept going, doing the best they could with what they had. Not holding any preconceived ideas too tightly. Fixing what they could, improving how they could, working it all together until this was the finished product. So you can still see it sunset, right? There's enough orange and yellow there. You can still see it sunset. There are still some palm trees over here. There's a couple additions over here. There's now some birds and some surfers. There's a monkey in this palm tree that didn't used to be there. And that's what the back now looks like. There's extra paper that got added in. There's a life preserver here on the back. But given what they had to work with, it's still a picture of sunset in a tropical location. They worked it up. Some of them kept working until this became the finished product by the end of youth group. Holdouts can keep you from working on something. They can keep you from participating how you might otherwise. We all have holdouts. We all have something, whether perfectionism or wanting it my way, or distractions, or anxiety, or fear, or a feeling of not enough, or lacking something. There's something that tries to keep each of us from fully following Jesus. The man was invited to follow Jesus as Jesus was on his way somewhere. He didn't know where Jesus was going. if there were hotel reservations that night, or where he was going to lay his head, where his food was going to come from, if he was going to like his traveling companions. There's a lot of unknowns when we follow Jesus. It can become a holdout. If Jesus says, whoever wants to save their life will lose it, but whoever loses their life for me will find it. Or in Ecclesiastes, that book that gives us the great wisdom, there's to everything there is a season, and a time to everything, to every activity under heaven. A couple of chapters after this one, it also says, cast your bread upon the waters, for you will find it after many days. What is your bread that you're holding on to too tightly? Is it money? Is it status? Feeling? What's your holdout? Is it fear, selfishness, the unknown? Is it belonging or not belonging? I was most curious about this man's question. What must I do to inherit eternal life? Because you don't do anything to inherit. You can't earn your way to an inheritance. It's about belonging, not about actions. And salvation is through faith, not by works. Jesus freely offers it, invites himself into our lives, stands at the door and knocks. All we have to do is accept our invitation, accept our inheritance as God's children, or turn it down. It's pure grace, unconditional, unearned, undeserved, unmerited. It's not about keeping the commandments. It's being part of God's family, which is an open invitation. And I know you said yes. And that means you can quit striving. It's not a competition. You can't earn your way into heaven. You belong to God. So get rid of whatever holdouts there are between you and God. There's a hymn by another Methodist preacher, Charles Albert Tindley, called Nothing Between. It's in your hymnal, page 373. We're going to listen to it. It's got a different tune. It's not very well known. So Dan is in the back is going to play this hymn. If you are a Christian and you want to read the words with it, it's 373 in your hymnal. I'm going to invite us to sit and listen. And then from there, we'll go directly into prayer time. So when the hymn is over, we'll begin our couple minutes of silent prayer before we go into intercessory prayer and the Lord's Prayer.